Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. May the peace and blessings of Allah be upon all of you. Welcome to this new series of broadcasts on my YouTube channel. And this series of broadcasts, I will call it Islam and Pop. So it is pertaining to how I view pop culture in its various forms, whether books, movies, songs, or whatever it may be, art even. And then I will try to give my musings, my reflections, if you like, on what I think of these things, and as a Muslim, of course, and trying to make sense of all these things that we are exposed to in this world. But right, we come across many ideas which can be contrary to what we believe or apparently contrary. So we have to be sure as best as we can. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to discuss these things in pop culture because this is what we're exposed to. And I hope you will find this series very useful to you, inshallah. The other reason why I'm doing this series on Islam and pop is also to show the expansiveness of Islam. But expense here, I'm spelling it as Expansive, not the expensive as in the cost, all right? But expensive as in how wide it can be, all right? If you like, I'm careful about using the word inclusive. Okay, but what I mean is that in Islam, you can do almost anything from any culture, from any race, from any uh, tradition, as long it is not clearly said to be haram. In other words, it can be considered as halal, permissible, or and even better, if it's good, then you can actually adopt that practice, whatever tradition you come from, whatever form, and so on. It does not matter. Only in certain areas of Islam things are specific, like for example, in case of your ibadah, right? Like in your fasting, in terms of your prayers and so on. Okay. Other than that, Islam is very expansive in the sense that it allows, all right, the Muslim to adopt many things from different traditions and so on. So in other words, Islam gives the Ummah a very global outlook. It is also this series is also done because I was once taught by my teacher, all right, this parable where he talked about a fish in the sea, right, which is very saline, okay, the water is very saltish, but when you catch it, because the fish is alive when it was caught, when you eat it, all right, then you find that the flesh of the fish is sweet. Yes, you don't taste the saline, you don't taste the salt. And I think this is true of most of the sea creatures also that you eat, right? You will not find them saltish. But he said that if those creatures in the sea, and he gave the example of a fish, is dead, and you put it in brine or salt saline solution, right? After a while, you find when you get the fish, that dead fish out, then you are actually going to taste that the flesh of the fish is actually very saltish. And Asians like myself, we are very familiar with that salted fish. So the parable that he gave is actually to show me, to tell me, and his other students that we Muslims must be alive. And we are going to live in a world where there are all kinds of ideas, thoughts, right? And some of them are un-Islamic. And we have to learn how to be alive so that we can actually filter out the salt, that means the pollution, the things that are un-Islamic. We cannot be like cutting ourselves off, right? And hiding in some cave somewhere, right? You can do that, all right, for a while for a Muslim. Okay, some solitude is good for a while, but eventually, like Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you would have to come back to society in the humdrum, rough and tumble of life, all the challenges that you face, all the funny, strange, contrarian ideas that you will come across. And you will have to make sense of it, and you will have to somehow be wara in the sense that when by wara means you are very careful about your religion. Okay, So these are the main reasons why I am doing this series, and because I find that too often, maybe quite a few of us, the Muslims, would like to just cut them off from everything. Sometimes it's just not possible, especially in this day and age. So it is better to be alive, right, rather than just to cut ourselves off. There's a place for everything. The other reason why I'm doing this series of videos on Islam and thought is also to highlight that we should not be throwing out the baby with the bathwater. There are many things that actually that comes from other traditions and so on, which on the surface looks as if it is something that we should not accept as Muslims. And maybe that's the nature of men, all right, or people, that when something is a bit strange to what they're used to, then they want to reject. But in Islam, all right, we have to be careful because we will actually lose some of the nikmah, and maybe we also cannot see the rahmah of Allah when He created us into people of many nations. And the Quran says that we've been created as such, so we may get to know one another. So it is we have to be, in this sense, careful about throwing things which are on the surface. It comes from a foreign tradition or foreign religion even, but then again, we have to look at the essence of it and how it is done, the reasons why, and so on, before we actually say that this is halal or this is haram, or we say this is permissible or not in Islam. So we have to be careful about throwing the baby out with the bathwater. That would be silly on our part. And I think also it's a reflection that we do not appreciate the rahmah of Allah, the mercy of Allah, when He created us into many kinds of people. And as He said, we are created that way so that we may get to know one another. So with that, okay, with that introduction, I hope you will follow this series of videos on Islam and thought.